hopefully our mindset is a little bit different to a year ago as well. We've been given an opportunity to look at our lives and ask questions that we probably never had before when we were in the thick of the rat race and running around. And we should be asking ourselves at this point, what do we want from our lives and how do we want to live our lives? Quite honestly, in some ways, I think it's a bit of a blessing to be able to ask those questions. So today we're going to talk about how mindful living is fulfilled living. Our guest today is Kim Zoller, CEO and founder of ID360. Kim founded her company over 25 years ago, has worked with individuals, corporations, universities, state governments. The list goes on. And I will say, in addition, has an impressive list of media appearances to go along with that. So it's my pleasure to welcome Kim to our show, to the Financial Wellness Hour. And I'm really so excited to have you here today, Kim. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled. And I was also thinking about that it is Mental Health Month, and what an amazing time. We didn't even plan it. So it's
we did not.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that in some of your posts, and more than ever, the statistics that I see, especially around kids, and we as adults need to kind of be guiding them and helping them. But the statistics I am seeing around mental health right now, again, makes it that much more timely, I think, as well. So thank you for bringing that up as well.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask if you can share a little bit about your background and where you practice and where you focus to help people understand a little bit of where your passion comes from and a little bit of your experience to help them.
Yes. So first of all, I, like you, are from South Africa, which is kind of fun. I just have lived in the States a lot longer. So I have a little less of an accent, or a lot less. I live in Dallas, and really we work throughout the whole world. And for the last 30 years, ID360 has really been providing human growth skills, potential skills, how to take, how to be a leader and apply the skills, learn the skills and apply the skills. And really our whole goal in what I do, my passion in life, is to be a conduit to growth, to personal and professional growth, and give people those skills. And we focused on that. I call us the little big business, because we are a little business, and we are lucky and fortunate enough to work with large companies, as I said, around the world. And how this all came to be, it's so interesting, because really our focus has been overall leadership, inside out and outside in leadership. And a lot of that has to do with our mindset and how we deal with our mind and deal with our emotions, so much emotional intelligence. And so I've had my own practice of mindfulness, meditation, and applying that to my own life, because I've had to grow through my own old habits and turn them into new habits that align with really who I am. And so the last year with COVID, what's happened is it's been a little bit of a shift. We've really been getting much more into that with clients. And that's where we are today, which led us to our discussion.
And, I think you bring up so many important things just in sharing in where you focus. But a lot of people think leadership is, I've got to have these skills, I've got to be on top of everything. But it's so much to do with inside out, as you put it, as well as outside in. Yes. The emotions, understanding who you are, how you relate to people, all of these things are huge. And, that's, as you put, emotional intelligence, but at the same time, being able to understand how other people are and the environments that they're in as well, yes, is so important as well.
Yeah.
And how we interact with them. I once heard someone say that words are cheap, but can be very expensive.
Yes.
And that really resonated with me, because something, I am in my personality is a little sarcastic. I might come off sometimes a little bit glib, and I don't mean to. It's just my personality a little bit. But you need to be aware of it, and that's kind of the emotional intelligence side of it, because you could say something that could be taken, in a way that could become very expensive. And yeah, I think this can apply to how we think as well, not just in the words, but last week I posted one of your blogs that you started off with some words and you spoke about reframing your mindset and your outlook, which I loved. And the words and concepts you used were very powerful as well. How do you, and again, this is a little bit of a general question, I know, but how do I know, say, if I can be more mindful?
Well, I think that every single person could be more mindful. All of us. I practice mindfulness is a practice every day. And we know from all the research that's really being done around the brain, in the brain, all the people who are focused on that this is not like a one and done. This is an every single day practice of being aware of. We know that meditation, although a lot of people say, well, I don't meditate or I don't know how to meditate. Meditation is truly the only thing that rewires our brains. And then we can still, here's the thing, we can still be mindful of how we say things. We can still be mindful of looking outside and seeing a tree in a different way, or looking at a picture in a different way, or washing our hands and truly being there, washing our hands. So it is a practice in everything we do. You talk about being sarcastic, and we talk about how we are, right? Who we are, what our personalities are. And here's the thing, is that we are who we are because of habits and because of it's not even a choice in that moment. It's old learned behaviors. And so, I used to say, well, this is the way I am. Like I'm passionate and I'm driven and I, come across a little harsh sometimes. And then I realized, no, I have a choice to really decide, and this is really what I think is so important. Am I aligning who I am with how I'm showing up? So when you put your head on the pillow, do you say, I behaved in a way that was exactly aligned with who I intrinsically know I am? So for me, I decided, you know what, I need to change those behaviors. And there's a subconscious, unconscious part of it. And then there's the conscious part. The conscious part is a lot of the skills that we teach. The subconscious part is the training, the choices that we make by being mindful, by meditation, so that what happens is those behaviors become not only ingrained in what we do, it actually, we slow down, we stop, we think before we even open our mouths, because we are retraining our brains.
It's so interesting because when I coach people on the financial side, I speak to them a lot about this. Incorporating new practices into our lives, it takes time and it takes practice. Somebody wants it to happen like that, and it doesn't happen like that.
Right.
You have to be mindful about it, and you have to be a little forgiving when, you step back a little bit as well.
Yes.
Those are all very important things. So I'm going to ask, and what are three specific things that I can start today to rewire my brain to live life like a little less stressed and a little bit more focused?
Well, the first thing, it's a great question, and there's so many different things you can do. The first thing is that I would suggest is that there are amazing apps out there. So meditation apps. And I would say, first and foremost, sit down, and whether it's 2 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, whatever you can commit to, even if it's, the studies show that if you do 2 minutes in the morning and 2 minutes at night, you will start to see a difference in your brain. That means doing it every single day. Obviously, the more you do it, the more substantial the changes are in our brains. That's the first thing. The other thing is, just on meditation, I want to say this. When you say, I'm sorry, I cannot meditate, I'm just not good at it. Every single person can meditate. It has nothing to do with changing your state. It has to do with allowing yourself to notice that things are constantly coming in, to know that we are not our thoughts, we are not our behaviors. We see them. If we're aware of them and notice them, then we can start to live a very different life. So that's the first thing, is the meditation. The other part is mindfulness in general. Are you mindful when you get up from your desk, moving from one activity to another? Are you mindful when you wash your hands? Are you mindful when you wash the dishes? Are you aware of what's going on around you? And that is something to start noticing when you're doing something, actually doing it. And when your mind starts to wander, like you're in a conversation with someone, right, and all of a sudden you're like thinking about a million things, say, yes, I notice, my mind just wandered. Let me come back to the present. Other tips are, when we feel that anxiety, when we feel that stress, just close your eyes for a minute and breathe. Just breathe. And there's something called box breathing, where you breathe in for 4 and you hold for 4 and you breathe out for 4. That could change to 8, 8, 8. It could be a 8 in, hold it, 4 out, and vice versa. There are a lot of different techniques. Breathing slows down our system from our sympathetic nervous system into our parasympathetic, which means that we actually slow our body down. Something very interesting is that when we're in stress, we actually get tunnel vision, literally get tunnel vision. What that means is that we literally cannot, something happens in our brain, and we actually cannot see around us the way that we normally could. And when we have tunnel vision, we don't make decisions well. We're not skillful. And so what we do when we breathe is we actually open that periphery vision up so that we can see. And those are just some of the tips. Another thing is, stop watching the news first thing in the morning.
Yes.
That's a killer. It sets us up for, it sets your brains up to look for everything wrong. Our brains go into fight, flight, or freeze every 4 seconds. We're constantly fighting against something called our default mode network. What that means is stuff coming in and we're not paying attention. And so we get into this anxiety, the stress. And whether it's about your money, whether it's about how you deal with your family, how you're dealing with COVID, we have the ability to just be here, knowing that we're here making good decisions. So again, I could go through, there's so many amazing things you can do to just start a practice of being mindful, which ultimately, Hirsch, is allowing yourself to become less stressed, more focused, more attentive, happier, joyful. I just want to share this. There's an interesting study that was done that they said 47% of our time we are not present. Our mind is wandering. And what they found, the name of the article was A Wandering Mind, or the research paper was A Wandering Mind is an Unhappy Mind. Wow. And what happens is that 47% of the time they have found that people are not present. And when we're wandering, we're thinking about the past, we're thinking about the future, and we're not happy in this actual present moment.
We're not appreciating what's right in front of us. And,
absolutely.
A couple months ago, you shared a daily exercise with me, actually, and from speaking, it brought up that it's worthy of mentioning, because I've actually haven't incorporated it as much as I want to. But most people, many people at the end of a day will ask themselves, like, what went well today? What didn't go so well today? What could I do better, right? The exercise that you sent me, there was an additional question to think through, is what do I need to let go today? And I thought that was enormous, because the things we do well, I think in general, we know. Sometimes we're not always as aware of the things we don't do well, but the stress comes from what are we needing to let go?
Yeah.
I think sometimes being a little bit more deliberate in what we're doing, in our thoughts, in our actions, and again, it's training, right? As we said, it doesn't just happen immediately. So I guess one of the questions I'm going to ask you is, are there important questions you should ask yourself when you're making this kind of a transition? I want to change. I want to do this. I'm loving what I'm hearing. But what do I need to know about myself almost to be able to move forward, or other things?
What I started to ask myself, and really helped me tremendously, was sitting down. I mean, it wasn't even a sit down. It was like this bomb hit me and that said, I'm in my head all the time. I am so focused on decisions that I wish I hadn't made. I'm so focused on what if this happens that I truly was not, I was, you know, to the outside world, I was living like people would look at me and they'd say, you are like, you're you, right? And
Right.
I am me. What was happening inside was that I was living in a lot of anxiety of, you know, I wish I hadn't done this. And why did I do this? And where we focus, whatever we focus on is where we put all our energy to, no matter what. It's just what happens. And so when I realized that, and this is going back to your question, you start to ask yourself, where am I most of the time? And
Right.
if you, so I take a piece of paper, I divide it into 3 columns. And in the column in the middle, I write down what I'm thinking about. And then on the left-hand side, I write my past. On the right-hand side, I write future. And then I look at what I'm thinking and I say, is it present or is it in the past or is it I'm worried about the future? And,
Right.
and then what you start to see is, gosh, I spend a lot of time pulling from experiences of my past and thinking that they're going to happen in the future instead of just being aware and observing the present. And it's hard. And I practice this every day and it's still hard. So these are the questions you ask yourself. How much time am I present? Am I feeling joy? Am I feeling like I'm here now? Or am I constantly thinking, is my mind constantly racing about other things?
So
And
that
that's
does bring me. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Finish.
No. That's, sorry, I was finished. I was saying that's where I would start.
So I love that, because one of the big things that I deal with, and you know, people see me as I've got an MBA CPS, everybody knows, and this cold, heartless finance guy, right? But I really do preach a lot to my clients about being in tune. Your body's going to tell you things, right? Things like that. Many people going through a life transition are in a state where focusing is difficult.
Yes.
For example, you know, I deal a lot with people going through divorce. It's one of the areas of life cycles that I coach people through. They're in this fog of emotion and they can't always settle it down. So what if somebody says, you know, I tried meditating, I can't. What advice do you have for them?
Okay, so the first thing is that let's take the meditation side out of it for just a moment.
Okay.
And I'll go back to it because honestly, it's like everyone can. And I think that people have so many misconceptions about what meditation is. So let's just hold that for a second. One of the things, if someone is feeling that anxiety or that like fog of things happening, what I would do, and literally if everyone right now would look down and look at their feet and where they're touching and say, you know what, my feet are touching the floor right now. There they are, right here, right now. And in this moment, I'm okay. In this moment, I'm okay, and I can handle it. And so I can tell you in my own life that there are days that I have literally done that. I don't even know how many times. I'm here right now. I wake up. This is what happens when we wake up. We are immediately going into a million places. If you're getting divorced, and unfortunately, I have been there. And so if that is what's going on, or anything that's going on in your life, we immediately start thinking about all of this. And what happens is we're not here now. We're just not. We're in the past. We're in the future. So much fear. And then I take a breath and I say, Kim, you are here now. So that is, I think, the most important. I would say that is the biggest tip to being here now and saying, I'm okay right now and I've got this. And what is my next decision based on being right here, right now, making skillful decisions? I want to say one thing just about the meditation piece, because so many people are like, I've tried it. So here's the thing about meditation. Meditation is not changing your state. It is not going from craziness to like I'm Zen on the top of a mountain. It just isn't. What it is it's paying attention to what you're doing in that moment. So if I'm counting my breath in or following my breath, I'm focused on my breath. The minute my mind wanders, as it will and as it should, because that's what our brains do, we say them as soon as you can, you're like, oh yeah, I just noticed my brain went somewhere else. I noticed, right. Here it is. Okay, come back to your breath. People, if they just stick to it, they'll notice that the first time, the second time, the third time, the 10th time, their mind is going to just be wandering back, forth, back, forth, back, forth. And the more we do it, the better we get at it. It's a practice. And right. There are days that my mind is everywhere. And what do? I say, oh my gosh, I noticed today. And those are the days that we know we need it the most. So there's a lot, I ended up doing a course, an online course, just basically assembling all the research. And it's 21 days of information, micro lessons. And I did that because people don't realize what they're doing and what the research is telling us, and then how to put it into practice. And I think it's really important to intellectually know what we're doing and then actually start practicing doing it. So,
just a couple things that are resonating very strongly with me as I make notes. One is, you spoke about breathing, and when your mind's in a fog and it's everywhere, it's so important because your body often and your mind often follow your breathing.
Right.
So if I breathe slowly and deliberately and focused on it, I tend to, as a whole, become that way, a little bit more focused, a little bit more calm.
Right.
People say if you need a little bit of energy, like if you look at a sprinter right before a race, they're not breathing slowly and, they bringing in and out, because they pumping themselves up, and their body is going to follow the breathing that they are doing. And that's why they do it quick and short and shallow, so that they can get that energy going. Right. So I think understanding some of these things, how your body connects from your mind and your body with even just through that breathing, how they can be connected, I think is enormous. The other thing is sometimes people are thinking, these people, the gurus, they start their day with an hour of meditation and they end with an hour, and you said earlier, and then we're going to have to go to a break. I can't believe how quickly the time's flown, but you had said earlier, just 2 minutes in the morning and 2 minutes in the evening can already start to make a change.
Huge
and I think that in itself is enormous. Just 2 minutes is not that much. So before we go to a break, I'm going to ask Kim, how can people get a hold of you? What are a couple of easy ways? And then we're going to head into the break.
Perfect. So my email it's Kim Zoller, Zoller at ID360inc.com is my email. And our website is ID360inc.com. And those are just great ways to get in touch with me and with our group.
And the blogs, there's some great information on there as well. I encourage everybody to do that, and we will be right back. Hello and welcome back to the Financial Wellness Hour. Today we have Kim Zoller, CEO and founder of ID360 with us and sharing some amazing information and insights in how mindful living is fulfilled living. And I do always at the break recap the first half because there's always so much that we sometimes forget what we've spoken about. So from my notes, if I can read them because I was writing very quickly, words are cheap. And we need to be more sometimes mindful, and being more mindful can be more fulfilling and help us connect with people. How do I know that I can be more mindful? You shared a slew of insights on that, several ways that you can do it right now. Some questions to ask yourself as to, are you just simply, am I present? And that was something that came up a few times as to a lot of stress being, whether you're present will reduce your stress, I guess, was if I'm interpreting that correctly. But if your mind is wandering and stressing over something that happened a week ago and will it happen in a week in the future, and am I going to make dinner tonight or whatever it is, those simple things, just not being present, can create a lot of stress. You spoke about meditation. You spoke about a little bit about keeping the momentum going with the small increments. Settling down your brain, again, being present. And we spoke about those 2 minutes twice a day, which really, when you think about 2 minutes twice a day, I think since we back, have been speaking for 2 minutes. So it's really not a long time frame to be able to do that. But I will say, sometimes we start something and we have this energy, we pumped, we excited, we're going to make it happen. The ups are way up, and then sometimes those downs seem to hurt that momentum. I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit about how do you keep this momentum going? Like, it sounds great. I'm going to be present. I'm going to meditate for 4 minutes a day. That's it. I'm awake 16. Doesn't sound, like a lot. How do I keep that going?
Yeah, so there are two things that came to mind that I'd love to discuss. One is what you're talking about, the momentum. I also want to talk about how we are more resilient because of it, and as far as the ups and the downs. So as far as creating a habit is like anything else. Any other habit, the way you eat, the way you, if you're an exerciser, whatever you have taken on, this is one of those things. For most people, meditation and mindfulness is a macro habit. What does that mean? It means that we can only really take on 2 macro habits a year. And it takes, they say, statistically, it's not 30 days from research. It really is 60 days. So what does that mean? It means that for 60 days, and if you miss a day, okay, for 60 days, meditate. For 60 days, you have to practice. And again, that may seem very overwhelming. Just think about other things that you've taken on. Here's the question. The ultimate question is, why is this important to you? Why is this important to you? If it is so important to you to stay present, to be joyful, to be in this moment, to realize that, there are things coming in and out all day long, every single day, and you have a good enough reason, you'll do it. By the way, if there's anyone watching who is who's pregnant or who have kids who are pregnant or going to be, I think about my children, God willing, they're going to have beautiful babies, and I want their epigenetics, their insights to look different. Trauma is carried. It's carried from generation to generation. And being mindful and meditation changes that. We know this from research. And because of that, it makes it worth it. If I had known this when I was younger, I would have been so much more present for my kids. What a gift that would have been. And now I look at it as a total gift. So here's the thing. Figure out why. Figure out for yourself, what could this do for you? Learn the research. Do it through either my online program or someone else's. Figure out. There's so much out there. And then just do it like anything else. Set a timer on your watch. Put it a reminder in the morning. Do it with a friend, where you get on the phone for 2 or 3 minutes. Use a guided one. Do it by yourself. I think guided meditations, especially when you're starting out, are really, really great and important. The other thing that I want to mention, Hirsch, as far as the momentum goes, and just resilience. We have ups and downs in our life. That's life, right? So
Right.
what we know by being mindful and through the practice of meditation, we know this. We watch non-meditators, and what it shows is that they're plodding along and something happens in their life, and their stress goes up, 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 up. And then it stays, and it gradually comes down. And then you look at people who meditate on a regular basis, and they're plodding along just like the non-meditators, and it goes up. Just like, when they get stressed, it goes up. And here's the thing, it drops right down. And many times it doesn't reach as high as a non-meditator. So, what we see is that it doesn't go as high, and it drops quickly, like literally.
Right.
And so when I think about trauma, or you think about things in your life, like, again, you're talking about divorce and life events that happen to us, even daily things that can happen to us. You ask yourself, how long do I want to feel bad? Well, is there a way for me to feel better sooner? Sure there is. We have this gift to be mindful, and
Right.
it is a practice.
And I would say any situation, we've spoken a little bit about divorce. You have to make major decisions in a divorce, but it could be at work, it could be at home, it could be anywhere. And making a decision when you're emotional and stressed is probably not the best way. I should say definitely not the best way to make that decision. I also want to point out that this doesn't, you're still going to be human. You're still going to react to things. You're still going to feel stress. It's what do you do with that, and how do you recoup from that to be able to move forward? And I think that's key. We're always going to have stress in our life, no matter what stress or what environment we're in. If you have children, if you have work, if you've gone through a divorce, if you've lost a loved one, any of these and more are going to create it.
Right. And here's the thing about stress. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No.
Here's the thing about stress. We are always, and instead of looking at stress like, oh my gosh, why is my life like this? We say, thank you. Like, oh my gosh, okay, I just noticed I was stressed and I'm okay. Like, I can come down from that. It's a different way of looking at it. And again, like one of my mentors since I was 22 years old and started this business is Tony Robbins. And, some of the things that Tony says, where focus goes, energy flows. So I think that is absolutely the case 100%. And when we're focusing on how bad it is, what happens is what we see from research is that when we focus on the bad and the stress, and then we go further and further and further, we just keep going down a rat hole. We chase it. That's what our minds do naturally. And I think that's really important for people to know, that this is natural. And so you're fighting it. I look at it like this. It's like a fight every single day, every moment. Okay, I know this is happening naturally. Oh yeah, I have a tool to do something about this. I have a skill. And the more we do it, the more it happens naturally. We don't have to fight it quite as much. And yet we still have stress. People still make comments. We still get emails. We still get overwhelmed with work. We still have lots of things that are coming in that make our cortisol, our stress hormone go up. It's just how we're looking at it, how we're focusing on it, and what we are doing about it. And I will tell you, the most interesting thing, when they look at the research, the majority of people are totally unaware of all of this as far as this ability to change this in their lives. And they are constantly so caught up by what's happening around them and affected by what's happening around them, as opposed to seeing what's happening around them, realizing they don't have to jump on that bandwagon, and dealing with it openly without as much stress, dealing with it with an open mind, skillfully, and being able to come back to a nice place for themselves.
I got to tell you, every single week, I will hear a client say something to the effect of, I just wish this was over. I don't know how to handle this. There's just too much on me right now.
Yeah.
And I think awareness is one of the things. If you feel I cannot handle this, I don't know how to handle it, it's going to create more stress.
Right.
As opposed to the awareness of, I know I'm going to get stressed, but I know how to handle it. I can focus on something. I can move that needle, so to speak. Becomes a very powerful thing. There was a comment that came through Facebook that they said this was a treasure of a program. I don't know if you saw that. There we go.
Nice.
And that was when you were speaking about your online program. I'm assuming they were connected. It was right after. But I will say, having spoken to you on multiple occasions, knowing some of the work you do, I fully believe that and support that comment. So that's actually a great entree, because we only got about 5 minutes left. And I do want to learn or share with other people a little bit more about what you do. And, at this point, I think, this could be for a family, for a team, for an individual. Let's say I want to bring this to my family. I want to bring this to my team. Do I need to know all of this beforehand? How do I implement this? How do I get it going? And I've just asked you about 6 questions, not 1. So you need to have me repeat any of that. But really the bottom line is, how do I bring this into my life? And then I think not just for me, but how do I share it with others? Because it becomes that much more powerful.
Okay, so we'll start with the first thing, and that is that you have to start with yourself. You have to make a commitment for yourself. And once you start to just do it, you will see that the rewards are crazy amazing. And then it's about the practice. If you can start to practice it and people start to see it, then they will want to be a part of that. If you have never done this and you say to your family, listen, or your team, you know what? We're going to try something new. We're going to do it together. That's another way to do it, and make each other, hold each other accountable. And again, it could be, do I have to go find out all the knowledge? It depends how your brain works. If you're just like, hey, I'm willing to jump in, it doesn't really matter what's going on, I just know that I need to do something, then you open an app, and there's so many of them. And we do a lot of meditations on our thing too, but there are apps like Waking Up, I love, Headspace, amazing, Calm, amazing. These are apps that I use. The Chopra. There are just some really cool apps, and daily, if I need a guided meditation, I'll be like, okay, today I feel like this. When you don't know enough, you pick one. And when I first decided to get into it, really like dedicated, I did Waking Up with Sam Harris. And I went to, if you look in the meditations part, it says beginning, foundations. And for 60 days, he leads you through how to get hold of your brain. He's much more intellectual than some of these other guided meditations. And I needed that. So it's a dive in. Again, you need to know your why. And you need to know that there are results. Like a meeting, you talk about, oh my gosh, the research, if you're working, the research of starting a meeting with a 2-minute breathing meditation creates huge amounts of innovation for your group. It's proven. They do it with football teams. They're doing it. This is the research. They're doing it on football teams. They're doing it in offices, hospitals. So the research is there. It's just about, you know what? It's time. It's time. And by the way, this is going to be in 10 years, in 20 years, this is going to be like exercise was. Like, do I really need to exercise? Yes. Now we know what exercise does. Mental health, brain, meditation, mindfulness is going to be one of those things that in 20 years, we're going to be like, yeah, we know that we should do it. We know all the research. So it's hopefully that answered your questions.
No, it did, and I'm going to skip about 6 questions. Firstly, for anyone, obviously, you heard earlier, Kim can work with you anywhere around the world. So I do encourage anyone listening, because we do have listeners in India and Europe. I know that as well. You can always reach out as well. Kim, I'm going to ask you for 1 minute to touch on your book. You've got a couple, actually. You got one coming out. You've got out already. What was the inspiration? A couple highlights, and then we're going to have to wrap up, because we are already at about 41, 42 minutes into the show. So it's crazy.
So my books are with a dear friend who and colleague, Kerry, Preston. I have them back here. There's You Said What, The Biggest Blunders Professionals Make, You Did What, The Biggest Communication Mistakes Professionals Make, and Executive Edge. Those are my 3 current books. Those are really about how to be professional, how to show up to say, you know what, this is what I want for my career. And these are things that I can do and skills that I can do that make me think. The book that's coming out is called Conscious Culture, and it's really about how we implement culture into a workplace. And it's really through thinking, acting, and then how we interact with the rest of the world. And that I'm writing with an incredible colleague of mine, Adrienne Courts. And so that's something in the works. And then as far as the mindfulness goes, we have, again, our online program, and we coach a lot. We coach people around the world, and we work with, and hopefully we'll be traveling soon. We work online. We work with online and on site when that happens, with companies around the world, with leadership teams, and really focused on the skills. I think more than ever, I do not do a program that doesn't incorporate how we deal with our minds, and then we learn to deal with the skills, because together they make us really incredible in how we lead our teams, our families, ourselves.
And I was going to just say that, by the way, just because you're taking those skills and those awarenesses into the workplace doesn't mean you can't use them at home and in personal relationships as well. So you can get a hold of Kim at Kim Zoller at ID360inc.com, or you can go to the website www.id360inc.com. Kim, thank you so much for shedding light on something that I think sometimes people are not sure how to get into, or should I try it? And I think you've really, if I didn't already do a lot of this, I think I would have been convinced for sure, but hopefully, especially anyone who experiences stress. So I think that's everybody listening. I appreciate it, because I think you brought out the benefits, but you showed this isn't just that airy-fairy kind of stuff. There's research, NFL, corporations, everyone using it, and where the future will be with this all, I think, is huge. So thank you for that. I am Hirsch Serman, the host of the Financial Wellness Hour. Again, thank you for the program. Another Facebook user comment coming through, so thank you for that. You can reach me at lifecycle.financial. That's lifecycle.financial. Please reach out with questions for me or for Kim Zoller, our guest today, or you can reach her again directly at ID360inc.com, and I will speak to you in 2 weeks from now. Thank you, Kim. This has been an amazing show. I got to have you back, because half my questions have not been asked yet. So please join me again. Thank you, everybody. And CC, behind the scenes, thank you as well for all the magic you put together, making this easy for us.